Hello everybody peeps, it's Notcast 272, welcome back. Today, 2nd of March 2023, I'm going to be talking about the 9th studio album released by that well-known popular beat combo, Metallica, which was released on the 12th of September 2008. The album is Death Magnetic. We have an album, 3 singles, I think 6 official live albums, about 12,000 official Blu Rays, and a ridiculous and stupid coffin-shaped box. Of course I bought it. Why wouldn't I? Would I ever let you down in that respect? Actually, you don't have any expectations. I'm pretty sure most of you that watch this are just like, oh, he's talking about his things again. How unexciting. Which is exactly the same sentiment, by the way, that is shared with a certain important person in my life. It's like, go and talk to your boring internet friends about your record collection. So here I am doing that. Hello, internet friends. So Metallica's Death Magnetic, the 9th studio record, is 15 years old this year, which is pretty amazing, really, considering because the band have only really done one proper studio record since then. Although obviously they have recently announced their new studio album, 72 Seasons, that's due out, I think, next month. Of course, I've ordered that as well, and I'll have a copy of that. And no doubt I'll have a Notcast about it at some point in the future once I've let the album sink in. Like, let that sink in. Actually, that's a terrible joke. Why nobody took Elon Musk to one side and went, that's a terrible joke? I don't know. I guess money is a key influence when it comes to these type of things. So we start the story with the 20th anniversary tour for the Master of Puppets album, which was in 2006. And at that point, the now fully coalesced new lineup of the band with Rob Trujillo on bass were playing the Master of Puppets album in full on about 20 or 30 shows, calling it Escape from the Studio, and of course releasing it on, or more correctly, releasing lots and lots of live downloads. So they were releasing all of their live shows now as MP3s and broadcasting on television quite a lot of them, which of course resulted in the inevitable bootleg DVD and CD market going through the roof. This is one of them. This is from the MTV broadcast of the Rock am Ring Festival on the 3rd of June 2006. Never been to Rock am Ring. Many of my friends have. I'm sure it's absolutely wonderful. But that and Rock in Park are, I think, are kind of like the equivalent of Reading and Leeds. And this features the band playing the Master of Puppets album in full, alongside new material. Although there's no new material on this particular show, by this point in the tour, the band had started playing a new song that was just called The New Song, which officially I think is called Death Is Not the End. And Death Is Not the End was the first of the new Metallica material with Rob on bass that anybody had heard. It featured parts of what would become the track The End of the Line on the album. And apparently, according to Matt Sorum, the album, or a version of the album, had been finished in 2006. And he was like, just stick it out already, it's good to go. And the band kind of did a Chinese democracy. They continued recording, mixing, dubbing, altering arrangements, trying new versions of songs. So in fact, we had a 5-year gap between the release of Saint Anger and the release of the then upcoming Death Magnetic. They played a second set of shows, this time not playing Master of Puppets in full, playing places in, I think, Australia and Japan and Thailand. And for the second time, the Olympic Stadium in Korea. Here's a bootleg DVD of the band live in Seoul. Again, that was broadcast on television. And this features the second of the new material, this time called The Other New Song, unofficially called Vulturus. And Vulturus was only played live 4 times, but I really enjoy Vulturus. I don't quite know why it hasn't come out. It's a fast-pacey, relatively exciting 4-minute banger. Very reminiscent, actually, of the material that the band released on the Hardwired to Self-Destruct album. And some of what I've heard from 72 Seasons, tight, compact. It's not taking any prisoners, I'll put it that way. But it's not quite up to the standard that you would expect from the rest of it. Now, for this period, I think that the band were learning how to be Metallica again as a creative entity. Saint Anger as an album is very clearly the product of cut and paste, Pro Tools and bad drum production. And if you listen to the finished mix of Saint Anger, you kind of go, well, I mean, that's good, but, and the but is, it doesn't sound like those songs have ever been played live in a whole ever. It's always been like those songs have been played for like 2-3 minutes or 20 minutes, and the band have taken chunks out of it and they've created the songs, as opposed to sitting there and going, let's play this song and understand how it works by playing it together in a room. They were putting it together in Pro Tools and assembling, songs in the way that one would reform processed meat. And that's not a criticism of Saint Anger. I think Saint Anger is my favourite Metallica album. It's not the best, but it's my favourite, and the one that has the biggest personal meaning for me. So I'm really, really interested to see where they were going to go next. Now, they followed on from that with a tour that started in 2007 and ran through for a few months, and then probably 30, 40, 50 million, something like that, called Sick of the Studio. Sick of the Studio, they didn't play the new songs apart from a one-off performance of Vulturus in Bilbao, which I've never been to, and the band were just recording material, but they were keeping it very, very quiet. So personally, I was kind of, Metallica becoming a nostalgia act. They're not playing any new material. They've dumped almost all of the old new material, if that makes sense. So they were playing material from the 2, 3, 4 albums back. And this is where I think bands have to think about, are they current, active, working bands, or are they actually kind of nostalgia pieces that are museums to how good they used to be? And if the newest song in your set is 10 years old, unless you've written no new songs in the past 10 years, you're becoming a nostalgia act. When you're playing old albums in full, you're becoming a nostalgia act. When you release more live albums than any other format, you're becoming a nostalgia act. And this was this period, I started to feel that Metallica was starting to become a nostalgia act, because they were trading on legacy as opposed to their current and future position. So, for example, they played Wembley Stadium on, I think, 8th of July 2007. I could have got a £30 ticket to see Metallica at Wembley Stadium, and I just sat there going, I looked at the set list and I'm going, you're just playing the really, really old songs. And it also felt like there was no currency in what they were doing. There was no vibrancy in what they were doing. It was like, we're going to play 10, 20, 30-year-old songs because that's what people want to hear, and we're not actually putting our money where our mouth is and playing new material, which of course was to come later. And this kind of almost sense of a nostalgia act for Metallica tied up and was repeated in the summer 2008 touring schedule, of which there were a number of bootleg releases and one official live album. The first bootleg release I've got is Touring Europe, which was recorded live in the Netherlands. I think this was at Pink Pop in May. Then there was this, Devil's Dance. Again, you can pick all of these up on Amazon for like about 7 or 8 quid these days. By the way, that's how much I paid for them, which was recorded in Lisbon on June the 5th, 2008. And then there was this Full Metal package, terribly packaged piece of webcast that was turned into a DVD. Pay about £5 for it, and frankly that was too much money. Recorded at, I think, Bonnaroo in Manchester, Texas, I think it is. Again, featuring youngest song on this at the time of release, 11 years old, which, considering the whole band had only been together 25 years, it kind of ties in with the theory that a band's first 10 years are the best, and everything after that is a downhill battle. It's just, prolonging the inevitable. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's particularly fair. But when the band don't play new songs, how can you believe that the new songs are any good? Surely the way a song becomes a live classic is if a band plays it live and doesn't just play it like twice and then forgets about it forever. Especially songs off Saint Anger like Dirty Window, which I think was only played 30 times. Sweet Amber was played once. Purify once. Some Kind of Monster was played maybe 3 times. And you kind of sit there and just go, you should have tried harder to make these songs staples of the set list, and then you wouldn't be playing the same old songs forever. The first official live release with Rob on bass was this Record Store Day 10-inch mini album and CD, which you could order for also from the band's website, called Live at Grimey's, which was recorded in the basement of Grimey's record store in Nashville, Tennessee on June the 12th, 2008, to about 150 people. I'm sure it was an incredible gig. It certainly sounds like a lot of fun. Double 10-inch here, featuring photographs of the band playing and warming up their summer touring there. But also the set list is, well, that's a surprise, isn't it? No song under 12 years old on that set list. The most recent of the songs on it was Fuel. Luckily, they didn't play Enter Sandman. Now, you might think, oh, he's been a snob, but Enter Sandman has been played live a lot. It's been played live too many times to the point where it no longer has any real meaning. It's a hit. You play it because it's a hit. It's a hit for the reason that it's really very good, but at the same point, it's been played live too many times. I've seen Metallica not play it. Nobody in the audience was going, oh, I can't believe they didn't play Enter Sandman. But then again, it was a fan club show for the launch of the Death Magnetic album. So I think people kind of knew that they weren't going to play it. That was the first release, which I think came out 2008, 2009 maybe. I think it came out not long after the tour itself. And so whilst the band was in the middle of touring, and it worked very well actually. It's a nice little live release. But the band at this point were also recording and releasing every live show as downloads from the livemetallica.com website. The band were touring. They were touring summer festivals. I think they the day after they played this show here, they premiered a song called Cyanide. And that became a key part of the band's set list for the rest of the next 2 and a bit years. Cyanide is a great song, and it really kind of laid out the stall for this is who Metallica are in 2008. In 25 years into your career, I listened to it, a live version, the way most people who were fans at the time heard the first time they heard Cyanide was a live version, and it worked very, very well. It sounded like Metallica in the way in which Metallica hasn't sounded for probably 20 years. So everything after And Justice for All, I was not a huge fan of. I think Death Magnetic is, aside from Saint Anger, the best Metallica album since And Justice for All. The writing process that the band had put together for Death Magnetic had taken 50 hours of soundcheck material from the Saint Anger tour, listened to those soundchecks and put together 6 or 7 songs instrumentally before they'd added vocals in. And then wrote 9 extra songs to a total of 15 by April 2006. They had 25, so they wrote 9 more by March 2007. March 2007, they started the recording process for the album. They recorded and finalised 14 tracks, all of which were released. There's probably some other ones which are available in various rough forms, but 14 tracks from the album were released, although 10 were on the album and 4 were on a subsequent release. And they had enough material for a record. And then they premiered the first official studio recording with Rob Trujillo as a writing member of the band on the 21st of August 2008. Wasn't released commercially as a single, it was released as a promo CD. Here it is. It is The Day That Never Comes. And I mean, what a shame actually that The Day That Never Comes didn't get a commercial release. It could have been backed with the track that they recorded for the Kerrang Iron Maiden compilation, which had them doing Remember Tomorrow. It's the original Kerrang cover mount is, I think, over there, I think. And I could go and get it, but that would grind this episode to a halt. And The Day That Never Comes is unquestionably and undoubtedly, in my mind, a Metallica classic. It follows the kind of a structure and approach that you would get for a classic Metallica ballad like Fade to Black, Welcome's Home Sanatorium, and Justice for All. A slow, measured, high-tension acoustic intro. And it's high tension because you know at some point, to quote the great Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Great Commando, all fucking hell is going to break loose. And that's exactly what happened, because halfway through the song there's a bit where the chorus refrain kind of mutates into something else, and then all of a sudden all the instruments kick off and the thing becomes this breakneck thrash epic of no small complexity or integrity. You know, the idea that a band 25 years in would be releasing an 8-minute multi-part lead single from their album is confident and ballsy, but also betrays, or not, I mean, I think betray isn't quite the words, demonstrates very, very clearly the band's commitment to the material. It's damn good stuff. They could have put a more obvious track out. They could have put Cyanide, they could have put All Nightmare Long or Broken Beat Scarred as the first single. They didn't. They put a difficult, not radio friendly 8-minute epic out as the first track from the album, and The Day That Never Comes is a Metallica classic. Absolutely love it. And this was followed up with the 12th of September 2008, the release of the album itself, Death Magnetic. This is a vinyl edition, the original vinyl edition from 2008. The songs on this and the production are very, very good. This is one of my favourite Metallica albums, actually. Getting 25 years in and writing an uncompromising 80-minute, well, 74-minute, 47 seconds double album of long, multi-part, progressive thrash epics is not something that you would expect from a band of their calibre. You would have expected a band of their calibre and their age to kind of go, we need some hits, we need to write radio-friendly songs, we need to do shorter songs, we need them to be more simple, less complex, less challenging. Oh no, Metallica were like, no, fuck that, we're going to do exactly what we want to do. The only major criticism I have of the album is the final mastered retail CD of it is unlistenable hot garbage. If you're familiar with the Loudness Wars, and I'm not going to bore you by getting too deep into showing you pictures of spectrographs and waveforms, by the way, that's for train spotters on the Stephen Hoffman forums, including myself. I'm on there frequently. You can find me under my actual name. But on the retail CD, the production and mastering is unlistenably bad. It's atrocious. It's one of the worst sounding CDs I have ever heard in my life. And I think the reason for that is primarily, I think Rick Rubin is bad at his job. He's a bad producer. He's very much around capturing the vibe and the feeling and has absolutely no technical abilities whatsoever. It's kind of like if you were going to watch Star Wars and it had all been done in crayon when you listen to something that's produced by Rick Rubin. It's atrociously bad, and his production is shamefully amateurish. The mastering is super, super hot. It's distorted. There's lots of clipping. You miss out details. It's like watching it's like looking at the Mona Lisa, but it's been printed on newspaper and done in dot matrix or you know the high dot level newspaper printing. It just lacks all definition or subtlety or clarity. It sounds awful. It sounds as if somehow you've got the best recording in the world and you're listening to it on an AM radio in next door's garden. So there is Death Magnetic. And Death Magnetic, this is the retail CD. I never listened to this version of the album because it is so badly mastered. And whilst the band was on tour and clearly thought that it was far more important to play Pink Pop and Rockin' wherever it is, Rockin' Rio in Lisbon and Bonnaroo or whatever, and get millions of quids a night, thought it was far more important to do that than it was to actually sit there with the final production and mixing of their albums in a studio, listen to the final mixing and go, yes, that's good enough. That is sufficient to last forever. Because like a great many things, a release date, anybody can make a release date. You only make a release date once, you make a bad product forever. And Death Magnetic, the finished retail CD version of it, is bad product. It's atrociously mastered. It's compressed, it's distorted, it's brick-walled, it's badly presented, which is such a shame because the songs on it are absolutely, without a question, fucking mega. Sorry to swear, but it is really very, very good. And we start off with, you know, the idea of actually the packaging on Death Magnetic, I should point out, is really good, very solid, very strong. So the concept of Death Magnetic as a title for the album is the idea of death as an unavoidable fact of life, death as a part of life. About death is a magnet, it pulls you towards it. And this idea here in the cover art is quite clever. The idea is a kind of like a magnetic kind of pattern that surrounds a coffin, and the idea is that we're all inexorably kind of being drawn towards the end of our lives and towards, as Indiana Jones's companion said in Temple of Doom, the great adventure. Is that death is inescapable. The coffin is a door, it's a portal, and also actually kind of, if you look at it, it kind of resembles well, as Rob described it, a woman's sex, which I thought was very coy. But the idea that kind of representing an image of, or the source of life, is also the source of death. My lifestyle becomes my Death Star, as they sang in Frantic. And the approach there around death being the inescapable fact, and we're all being drawn towards it, or as Pink Floyd sang in that time, every day is one day closer to death. Oh, I love that cheery band. This is also reflected in the packaging, which effectively each page of the booklet on the CD contains a die-cut image of a coffin, which gets smaller and smaller as we kind of progress through the layers of the soil towards the coffin itself. The opening track, That Was Just Your Life, is I mean, certainly when I heard That Was Just Your Life for the first time, I had somebody uploaded a copy of the album, which had been sold by mistake in advance in France in about 4th of September. And the first time I heard it, I'm like, oh my God, they've done it. They've done it. The version of Metallica that I wanted back, that I experienced as a 15-year-old kid with a full head of hair in Birmingham, England, when Black Sabbath were a local band and a bit of an embarrassment because that guy was singing for them and Cozy Powell was on drums, and Cozy Powell played drums for every rock band in Britain at the same time. There was a kind of a moment when I listened to Injustice for All, and 15-year-old me was listening to Black Sabbath and going, nah, I don't see it, because Ozzy was a metal clown who was an alcoholic who was in Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, and Metallica were young and furious, and I was young and furious, railing against the injustices of the reality of the capitalist system that I lived in. When the revolution comes, they will be first against the wall. And when I listened to That Was Just Your Life, musically, I just thought, Metallica have got it back. The thing that they'd been missing for a while was their inspiration. And by playing Master of Puppets in full on the tour, then going into the writing, they got back to that talent, that ability to create multi-part progressive thrash epics that were 10 minutes long, that had 4 different tempos and never quite repeated the same place twice. And they came out of the gate running at 100 miles an hour, breathless and angry at the state of the world. And That Was Just Your Life was the opening salvo of that. One of the best opening tracks for any show that I've ever seen, by the way. And then we have, so That Was Just Your Life is the idea of about an endless fight as the day is long. You realise you don't belong and you disconnect somehow. It's about not fitting into the life that you have, looking back over the life you've had and going, is this the life that we really want? Is this the life that I wanted to live? Is this the person that I wanted to be? And that state of reckoning, which is followed up with track 2. Track 2 is The End of the Line, and The End of the Line is absolutely great. I really love The End of the Line. It is, when you listen to that 1-2 punch of That Was Just Your Life at the end of the line, you go, how could those two songs ever be separated? They appear like one part of the other. And so the lyric to The End of the Line, which takes parts from Death Is Not the End, that was played in 2006, kind of also touches very clearly lyrically on a repeat or a return to the central concepts and precedents of Master of Puppets, the idea of the slave becomes the master. It needs more and more right now, and ever after needs more and more. So the lyric is around going through your life and living like you only live once, which is both a promise and a threat. But also again, there is no redos in this. There's no do-overs. There is only one go. You only get to experience today once, and the end of the line is very clearly about going, right, this is it. That was just your life. This is the end of the line. There is no space to hide. This is what's going to happen. Track 3, Broken, Beat and Scarred. Always, of course, those happy song titles for the Metallicats there. Broken, Beat, Scarred was played live pretty much every show of the tour, and it sits on the central lyrical conceit, which is grammatically infuriating, which is what don't kill you makes you more strong. I sat there going, you've been to the Zoolander school for kids what don't talk good, and the lyric is around rising, falling, and as is said in the Marvel comic by Batman, we fall so we can learn to rise up. It's around kind of just going from that. Is like, no matter what matters is not how many times you get knocked to the floor, but how many times you get up. And Broken, Beat and Scarred was the song that really spoke to me at that point. So the time when the song came out, autumn 2008, was a very, very tough time of my life. And what I didn't realise is I was a man on the edge of a nervous breakdown, which I did have one in January 2009. So this album was something that was absolutely what I needed to hear at the time it came out. We have the fourth song, The Day That Never Comes, which is, obviously I've mentioned it before, one of my favourite Metallica songs. I'd be quite happy if they played every song from this live, apart from the Unforgiven 3, which is a bag of shite. And then we've got the booklet page for The Day That Never Comes, kind of has this, I don't even know who that is actually. That looks like it could be a clean-shaven James. I'm not sure if that's ever happened. The idea of the coffin being the mouth, and obviously we think about death itself as an event, as a day that never comes, and of course it always comes, and then your luck runs out, as the lyric in Broken, Beat, Scarred or Cyanide has it. We have All Nightmare Long, track 5, again played live loads of times. I saw the band play it. I think to call it an absolute banger would not be inaccurate. All Nightmare Long. It's a very good, solid song. I just think it works really, really well. It's got a huge, long instrumental intro, goes at a fast pace and gallop through everything, and it takes no prisoners on its way. So the lyric is around crawl from the wreckage one more time. Horrific memory twists the mind, and the idea of what matters is that you crawl back in, but your luck runs out. And you kind of escape from the destiny, the consequence, the life and the decisions that you've made, which ultimately you can't escape. You crawl back in and it hunts you down all nightmare long, and it comes to get you. When someone says the check's in the post, it's really in the post. Track 6, Cyanide. Again, first song released from the album. The lyric here. In fact, actually, let's talk quickly about what's in the booklet here. So we've got the coffin that's there, and then each page the coffin contracts closer and closer. So the first picture that we've got here is a car crash that's next to the lyric of My Apocalypse. We've got that was just your life. So an I, part Sauron, part your own self-perception. Cyanide, with an image of an ultrasound scan of a child. All nightmare long, as somebody on a bed crying. The Day That Never Comes, a face of a person. Suicide and redemption, a road. These are Broken, Beat and Scarred. Well, that's a beach. Pretty hard putting a strange shaped beach towel on there. The end of the line is an abattoir from the meat industry. I know I should be vegetarian, but I'm not. The Unforgiven 3 feels like someone's been taking Anton Corbijn lessons. The Judas Kiss kind of presents that blinding flash of light, that revelation inside the coffin itself, and then finally the booklet with the picture of the millionaires, and then opens out into the soil and the CD itself. The booklet's a really interesting work of art. It's very tangible, like holding a mass-produced work of touchable, explorable art is really, really interesting. We have track 7, by the way. I've skipped over Cyanide because track 7 is the worst song on the album. I'd be quite happy if it never came out. It is The Unforgiven 3, which, considering we have The Unforgiven 2 on Reload and The Unforgiven on the Black Album, means that every other album has an Unforgiven on it. Thankfully, I don't think 72 Seasons has The Unforgiven 4, or more correctly, The Unforgiven, as it should be called. But The Unforgiven 3, it sounds like someone's played the tape backwards. You know, like the Stone Roses did songs like Don't Stop, Simone, Guernica, Moses, which are basically backwards versions of existing tracks. The Unforgiven 3 sounds like someone's played the master tape to The Unforgiven backward and put a new vocal over the top of it. It's uninspired and uninspiring, and it is boring, and I'm really glad the band hardly ever played it live. And then we had the Judas Kiss, track 8, played live very, very frequently. Track 9 is Suicide and Redemption, the first instrumental on a Metallica album since, I think, the Call of Cthulhu, or Orion, actually, 20 years previously. Because let's not forget, To Live Is To Die does have 4 lines in it. Only 4, but it does have 4 lines in it. And Suicide and Redemption is a fascinating instrumental that exists in 2 studio mixes, which were available for download, one featuring Kirk doing all the soloing, one featuring James doing all the soloing. It was also played live for the first of, I think, only 2 times at this show in Copenhagen, which was released as the band's fan cam number 6, live in Copenhagen. And the last track on the album is My Apocalypse, which has a slightly different set of backing vocals on the demo version. I'll talk about the demo version in a minute. And a new intro that was recorded in the studio early 2009 and became the intro to live performances of the song when it was introduced in summer 2009. And My Apocalypse here has the Death Magnetic in the title track, the idea of Death Magnetic pulling closer still. So crushing metal, ripping skin, etc., tossing body mannequin. It's not great lyrics, but the ideas are around this. The death is a black hole. It's sucking you in, and you can't escape it. And then that's how the album ends. On the demo version of the album, released in the Coffin box set, which is here. Hello, I'm the Coffin Magnetic. I think that's what it was called anyway. You have the demo versions of the album presented in sequence. The production on this is so much better than the retail CD. It's actually embarrassing. And the demo versions are only available on the box magnetic. In the Europe, I think this was limited to 2,000 copies. And you've got High Guy, which is That Was Just Your Life 19, which is the end of the line. Black Squirrel, great name for She's Broken Beat Scarred. Black Squirrel has a different bridge, by the way, to Broken Beat Scarred. And when you hear that bridge on the demo version, which is on YouTube, you kind of go, why on earth wasn't that in? I don't know. Casper, which I think is, I think that's Cyanide, isn't it? No, It's a Day That Never Comes. Flamingo, which is All Nightmare Long. German Soup, which is Cyanide. Un3, what could that be? Could that be Unforgiven 3? Don't know. Could be. Gym Bag, which is the Judas Kiss. K2 Lou, which is Suicide and Redemption. And then the last one, track 10, My Apocalypse. My Apocalypse on the demo has different vocals, or more different backing vocals, where in the middle of the verse, Kirk and Rob scream intention reckless in the middle of it, and it just makes the song just that little bit better, that little bit closer to fine. So the demo version's absolutely essential. Please, 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 if you do like the album, give the demo versions a listen. And the box magnetic also featured this Making Magnetic, which was a 2-hour DVD concentrating on each one of the songs of the album presented in order, with about 10 to 12 minutes per song, showing the band going through the recording process, the mixing process, trying out vocals, and you can get to hear some of the alternate demos from it there. The band did have a website called Mission Metallica, which is no longer updated, which was effectively a subscriber's website where you could see the band in the studio during the recording, really lifting the lid off the recording process. Absolutely fascinating to see, really, really interesting to experience, but at the same point, making an album is like watching someone go, it's not very exciting. Right? If you watch somebody writing a book, it's you watch a guy making a record, it's jigga, jigga, jigga. You don't necessarily, there's a lot of tedium when it comes to constructing it. The vision is great, but they're putting the brick by brick, sound by sound into an album. It's not that exciting. I mean, obviously it is the first time you do it, or the 10th time you do it, it isn't. Now inside the box magnetic, hello, I'm the box magnetic, I'm horrendously limited and expensive. Was a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's go through the other stuff that was in there. Now, my one had some used guitar strings in it, which I put in the box. And it had some shoelaces. I don't quite know why it had shoelaces. It also had a lanyard with the Death Magnetic logo on. A Death Magnetic credit card, which allowed you one exclusive live Metallica download, which I will explain later. What else there was? There was a sticker here which goes on the front of the LP, on the front of the box. There was this, I don't know what this is. Is this a bandana or a flag or something? Yeah, it's a flag of the Death Magnetic thing. Yeah, what don't kill you makes you a stadium rock band, which I've not opened, and now I'm going to have to regret kind of closing it because I have to file it away to fit inside here. There was a t-shirt that was inside the set as well. That's not the t-shirt I'm wearing at the moment, by the way. There was another t-shirt. This t-shirt I bought on the tour. The t-shirt that was included in the box was this one here. And then there was also a very elaborate DM kind of booklet here, which kind of followed the same kind of principles that we had, but this time it was coffin shaped and mostly rubbish. Yeah, so you kind of open that out and there was 4 pictures of 4 rich guys standing next to a wall looking bored. Now the other thing that we did have in here was the Death Magnetic guitar picks. Never used them. Any of you that have heard me play guitar will wish that you hadn't heard me play guitar. So that is pretty much that. Now the other thing that the box did provide, and this was absolutely what made it worth its weight in concert tickets, was if you bought the box, you had access to the ability to buy a ticket for one of the band's 2 warm-up shows and album launch parties. So they played the O2 Arena in London, which is 18,000 people, but the tickets were £5, and the band played a full-length 2-hour live show where they didn't play Enter Sandman, but instead they played Blackened and a selection of rarities. So I saw them play Until It Sleeps, and it was my favourite Metallica gig, actually, because you didn't get your standard tracks that get played at every single goddamn show. You didn't get Nothing Else Matters, you didn't get Enter Sandman, you got Until It Sleeps and Blackened and things like that. Great tracks. Not that I don't love Enter Sandman, but it's kind of like, the bands just can't get enough. It's good, but I've heard it everywhere, every time I've seen the band. And so £5 to see the band play a special set, album launch set, most of the new songs, a whole bunch of rarities, and the crowd was all, frankly, nutters. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way. Metallica crowds are very, very passionate about the band that they love. It's one of the best audiences to go and see, because one of the things that's important about a band is some bands have audiences that when you go to see them, and it's kind of like, well, I'm going to go and see them because, my boyfriend likes them and I don't like them. Metallica fans, they fucking love that band. And, you don't see Metallica CDs in charity shops. You see Adele CDs, you see Ed Sheeran CDs, you see all those. You don't see Metallica in a charity shop, because Metallica fans, they don't just like the band, they love the band. You cut them and they bleed Metallica. That's how it works. And that's great, because when you see Metallica, what you're aware of is, for a lot of the fans, this is the best gig they're going to see for the next few years. That is it. That is the highlight of the moment. That is going to be, the pinnacle of it. Whereas it's not like some bands where half the audience want to go and the other half are going because their wife, husband, boyfriend, whoever likes the band. Metallica fans, almost all of the time, everybody that goes to a Metallica gig really bloody loves Metallica, knows all the songs, and is really pleased when they play the thing that should not be because they don't play it as often as they should do. That type of thing. So seeing that show on the 15th of September was brilliant. Absolutely great show. Loved it to bits. Phenomenal audience, great crowd, new album. Just one of my favourite shows that I've ever been to. And the day that I saw them, 15th of September 2008, the day the album came out, or maybe the day after, the album was officially very new, although we all knew the songs because we're train spotters. I got on the train at Waterloo East, got home, and I got the text message that told me that Rick Wright from Pink Floyd had died. I hadn't looked at my phone or checked anything, so I had no idea what was going on. But it said Rick Wright's died, and I'm like, that's the thing. So to me, Death Magnetic always reminds me of the death of Rick Wright from Pink Floyd. Why is that? Don't know. Don't care. It's just that's one of the things, that personal memories that wrap themselves around the experiences that we've got of the album. So at the time that the album came out, a lot of criticism of the production of the Death Magnetic, and I stand by all of that criticism. It's justified, it's deserved. The final mastering choices are appalling. There have been there's a different mastering of the album that's been released on iTunes, and there's an unmastered version of it that was released as downloadable content for Guitar Hero 3, and then those versions were made available to download by illicit means. There's I think one called the Merc 3 Remaster. If you love Metallica, you should go for the Guitar Hero versions of the songs, not the retail CD versions of the songs. Even the vinyl versions of the songs are pretty distorted, which, given how the restrictions of the vinyl format are, is pretty surprising just how distorted and clipping the vinyl version of Death Magnetic actually is. But no, it sold very, very well. So this version sold 2,000 copies pretty much overnight in Europe. It sold 490,000 copies in America in 3 days. In total sales, the last time I looked, were 4,260,813, which is a very impressive result in the days when people were moving over to Spotify and YouTube and Napster and not buying CDs at all. And so the band went on the road because they're road dogs. That's what they do. And they released 2 commercial singles and about 17 live releases. And we're going to talk about all of them. Aren't you lucky? The first of the commercial releases was a German-only 2 CD and DVD version of All Nightmare Long, which came in. Now this was a bizarre thing, a kind of like trifold pack, which featured the disc one, which featured live versions of Wherever I May Roam and Master of Puppets. CD2 features Blackened and Seek and Destroy, and the DVD features the Berlin Magnetic documentary and the Rockin' Park Container Rehearsal. So very quickly going to talk through those. These are different from the live versions that you can download on the Live Metallica website. So they've been remixed and remastered. And I think these recordings were made in Berlin on the 12th of September 2008. So that was the first of the shows. And with these versions of Wherever I May Roam and Master of Puppets and Blackened and Seek and Destroy, you also had the DVD single featuring the Berlin Magnetic documentary, which is an absolutely essential watch. It is on YouTube. It's half an hour long. It features 3 songs, the opening 3 songs of the tour. So that was Just Your Life, The End of the Line, and The Thing That Should Not Be from Berlin, as well as a rehearsal container which the band play for about 20 minutes just before they go on stage to warm themselves up at Rockin' Park. These are probably quite difficult to get now. Sorry they are, I wish they weren't, but I don't make the decision to only release weird and obscure singles only in Germany. In fact, it's pretty surprising that singles were only released in Germany, because CD singles, DVD singles, terrible format. 12 inches. The commercial single release was starting to die. Everything was moving through to downloads. So the idea of owning a physical single was quite unusual. The second single that was released from the album was Broken, Beat and Scarred, again released only in Germany, again in a trifold pack with a merchandise insert featuring Broken, Beat and Scarred live and The End of the Line live on CD 1. Hello, I'm CD 1. Stone Cold Crazy and Of Wolf and Man on CD 2. Hello, I'm CD 2. And then a DVD with the video for Broken, Beat and Scarred, which was filmed live, but I don't know at what show, and the Day That Never Comes video, alongside the electronic press kit or promo reel, depending on your point of view, for the album. So that's about a half-hour documentary that is provided to media outlets so they can broadcast stuff on TV and go, look, we really honestly did meet Metallica. So this release features live songs, again recorded at the album launch shows, this time from the London show on September 15th, 2008, featuring Stone Cold Crazy and Of Wolf and Man, again mixed and remixed from the original download, and then the DVD version here featuring the promo stuff. There was also a merchandise insert, this time advertising Guitar Hero Metallica. So Metallica at this point had gone madly into merchandising everything, because what don't kill you can have a logo slapped on it and sold through the Metallica web store for lots of money. That's probably not the exact lyric to the song, but that's where I'm going with it anyway. And the band had gone pretty bonkers on merchandise at this point, so they'd started to do not just t-shirts, but things like, you know, golf hats, brake pads, footballs, anything with a logo on, probably, you know, Metallica beer cans and action figures and all that type of stuff. And it just got pretty damn absurd pretty quickly. Really pissed me off, because in my mind, the version of Metallica that existed in my mind, which I know doesn't exist and hasn't existed for a long period of time, that theatre bands from the 80s that did thrash metal, that were really careful about not putting out stupid merchandise and not putting out 1,000 singles or multi-formatting. By the time we get to this, Metallica have become a very different beast. I think it's fair to say far more mercenary. Whilst the band were touring, they released 2 live EPs as well, both only in Australia. This is the 6 Feet Down Under EP that was released at the tail end of their 2008 to 2010 touring cycle. This features 8 songs recorded at each over the 4 previous visits the band had made to Australia. So from 1988, 1993, 1998 and 2004 there, including, for the first 2 tracks, audience recorded bootlegs that sound crappy. They also released only in Australia, the 6 Feet Down Under Part 2 EP. So this is an 8-track mini live CD from the 2010 Australian leg of the tour, featuring Blackened, Ride the Lightning, The Four Horsemen, Welcome Home, Sanitarium, Master of Puppets and Justice for All, Fade to Black and Damage Incorporated. So the band did two sets of shows. They did a set of shows in September or October, and then they came back again at the end of November to close off with a second round in Australia, and that's where they ended the tour. This was recorded at various venues, including Brisbane, Sydney, Christchurch, Melbourne and Auckland, and then released to coincide with the very last set of Australian shows, the end of the tour, an 8-track EP. I don't know how rare this is. It probably is quite rare, because at this point Metallica were releasing things only in certain countries and only in limited quantities. So there was one pressing, and if you didn't get it then, it was gone forever, which, if you're a train spotter like me, was expensive. But at the same point, effectively, the band would release previously 5 or 6 singles from an album. Each one would have 2 or 3 B-sides, normally live concert recordings. Instead of that, the band went to releasing CDs, EPs, live albums, live DVDs, releasing lots and lots of live material from the same period, but just in a slightly different configuration. So, for example, this period had 5 video releases, one of which I do need to get from the corner up there, so I'll be back in a second. And I'm back in the room. So the first release, and this is in the order of release, it's not necessarily in the order that they're recorded. The first release was only released in France. It was called French for a Night, or Français pour une nuit, which was recorded at the Arena in Nimes on the 7th of July 2009. And again, one pressing, one and done, featuring an all French crew, French editing people, and only released in French and in limited quantities through the band's web store. And this is the band recorded at the Nimes Amphitheatre. I think it's a Roman era amphitheatre. It is, of course, available on YouTube, featuring a standard outdoor festival set list. So opens with Blackens and features a number of songs. I was quite annoyed when this came out that they didn't have, it didn't open with That Was Just Your Life and End of the Line. But ultimately that was covered multiple times elsewhere, including the 2 songs from Berlin. Again, features a full show from the tour, released on DVD. The Blu Ray didn't sell many copies and it's quite rare and difficult to get, hence I ordered the DVD. But again, features the standard tour set list for an outdoor festival show, including Broken, Beaten, Scarred, Cyanide, The Day That Never Comes, and a small snippet of a cover version of the French national anthem. Because at one point they were doing the break in between The Day That Never Comes and Master of Puppets with 2 bars of whatever the national anthem is of the country in which they were playing. Released next, although recorded before that, was I think this one here, Power, Passion and Glory, which was recorded over 3 stadium shows in Mexico and released in South America and Mexico only in a number of formats. This is the 4-disc box set that again was only released through the band's web store in limited quantities, or through the or through retail in South America and Mexico. So this features 2 discs here. One features ostensibly the second night of the 3 plus a couple of extra tracks, and it features 2 CDs featuring the audio soundtrack to the main disc release. It also features, hang on a second, we've got a live one here, DVD 1, which features the second night of the 3, and DVD 2, which features the songs that were only played at one night out of the 3. So this features about 18 live tracks plus about 18-20 extra songs which were only played on one of the 3 nights. So the band would play probably 12 songs the same across each night, and then change out 7 or 8 songs every night. So if you went to see them all 3 nights, you got all of the songs. If you saw them one night, you were missing pretty much half the set list, for example. And again, this should be better known and better publicised and more widely available, but it isn't. One of the things that attracted me to Metallica when I first became a fan of them was the fact that their discography was simple, and not long after that their discography became really quite complicated indeed. But Power, Passion and Glory, recorded in Mexico, is a really great live set. I really enjoy it. The audience super passionate, really great. And then we had the 3rd release from the tour, Van Can number 6, which is here, recorded in Copenhagen, ostensibly through one show, but with extra material recorded over the 5 or 6 shows that the band played in Copenhagen, including the premiere of Suicide and Redemption. Again, they gave cameras to the fans filmed the show, they edited it, they got fan club members to interview the members of the band and ask the questions which most interviewed people don't ask, and put it all together in this gorgeous fan club package. Again, difficult to get, but they were selling some to retail through the band's website. The 4th release from the tour was this documentary, Mission to Lars, about the quest for Tom Spicer, who I think lives in Wales, and his quest to meet Lars Ulrich, which kind of happens throughout, of course, the film. It's fascinating, interesting and enlightening, and I think over time, as autism has risen to public prominence and perception, it's a really interesting film, really worth watching indeed. The next release that we had, this is less common, only released in America. The band played a 40 or so minute set at the Madison Square Gardens in September 2009 for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And this DVD set features Enter Sandman, Sweet Jane by Metallica and Lou Reed. That's the start of something most people didn't see coming. With guest vocals by Ozzy on Iron Man and Paranoid, and guest vocals by Ray Davies on a cover of All Day and All of the Night. And also on the third disc there are some extra tracks that the band played throughout the set as well. So most bands played about 7 or 8 songs. U2 played about 7 or 8. Bruce probably did 12 because that's what Bruce does. Metallica, I think, played a 7 or 8 song set, and almost all of it is on this disc. This is Region 1 locked. If you're in America, great. If you're not, you need a Region 3 player or YouTube. Right, 3 more releases. Well, 2 more releases to go throughout this tour, because there's a lot of live stuff that's coming out now. And in the absence of singles, live albums became a form of merchandising. One of the documents to record the album was the Big 4 live in Sofia in Bulgaria, released as a Blu-ray. Some of these Blu-ray discs don't play thanks to manufacturing errors. And also at this 5-disc box set, which features the whole of the performances by 4 bands in Sofia in Bulgaria in June 2010. So that's Anthrax, Slayer, Megadeth and Metallica sharing the stage for the first time ever. Over 10 hours of live music, 2 DVDs, 5 CDs and a whole bunch of extra stuff. This was a one-time cinema event as well. The DVD is your standard DVD without the barcode on. That features the Metallica 2-hour set on one disc and the sets from the other bands on another disc. You also got a whole bunch of other stuff. So whilst we're at it, let's go in there. You get a nice plastic box and a guitar pick. You get some photographs of Metallica and Slayer, classic Slayer with Dave Lombardo and Jeff Hanneman. One of the many thousands of lineups of Megadeth, pretty much all of them apart from Dave, no longer in the band, of course. Anthrax, featuring everybody's favourite metal hero, Scott Ian. A fold-out booklet here. Hang on a second, this is getting like Tetris. A booklet. Oh, that's exciting. Pictures of guys playing guitars. How original. I think that's a poster. I don't really care. That's a receipt. Didn't come with a box, came separately. And then CDs of Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, and yet another Metallica live album. CDs 4 and 5. The whole of the band's set at Sofia on 2 audio CDs. So there you have it. This was also released, as I've said before, on Blu-ray, but the Blu-rays had some manufacturing errors and your copies might not play. So if you have a copy of the Blu-ray of the Big 4, you may not be able to play the Blu-ray on it. A mistake I made after the statute of limitations occurred. The last release from this period covered 2 shows in Quebec on October the 31st and 30th, 2009. It covers the whole of the sets. It features the best of the Halloween night, featuring extra footage from the first night, plus all the songs that only played on the first night. So that's a standard tour set list, plus bonus tracks of For Whom the Bell Tolls, Holier Than Thou, Cyanide, Turn the Page, All Nightmare Long, Garage Incorporated, Bread Fan, Phantom Lord, and a whole bunch of fan footage and extra guff. During the course of the tour, the band played 187 shows. They grossed 217 million. They played the US, Europe, Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, pretty much everywhere in the world. They also played 2 corporate shows for the Guitar Hero 3 game and Call of Duty, which I find distasteful, but I'm not them. And they played a total of 79 original songs, plus 2 one-off cover versions, one of Black Sabbath's Hole in the Sky and the other one of Saxon's Motorcycle Man, as well as the songs that they performed at the Madison Square Garden. And there was only one bootleg CD or DVD release that I could find during this period, Broken Beaten Scars, recorded live in Madrid 2010, with a broadly similar set list to the Big Four, but this time broadcast on television. So that's a big exhaustive trawl through 10 songs, about 12 live releases, about 6 live albums, about 7 live DVDs, 3 singles, loads of B-sides, loads and loads of live shows. I saw the band twice on this tour. They were excellent, both shows. They never phone it in, and as I've said before, their audience is really great, having the best night of their lives. I think Death Magnetic is I'll probably put it third in my Metallica albums, after And Justice for All and Saint Anger. Is very, very, very good. Really exciting album. Absolutely loved it then, love it now. One of my favourite periods to be both just as an album, but also to be as a fan of the band and to experience being a fan of the band. I saw the band at the fan club show. I saw the band in the pit. At the public show that was at the O2 on the 2nd of March 2009, by the way, just after my nervous breakdown. And generally speaking, you know, a really great period to be a Metallica fan. I love this album. I don't care who else knows it. The production is awful. The Guitar Hero 3 version of it is fantastic. It's easily the only way to fly. And I just really, really enjoyed this period. I know Metallica are a big band, but when I listen to them, I don't hear a big band. I just hear a good band, a great band. And that is probably the most important thing. It doesn't matter whether the bands I love are big or small, as long as they're able to make it work and make a career out of it, and I can continue to go to see them. Support the band, buy their merch, not all of their merch, because if you buy all of Metallica's merch, you will go bankrupt. There is a lot of Metallica merch out there. Buy their stuff, buy their records, go see the shows. That's what it's all about. And yeah, the Death Magnetic is one of my favourite Metallica albums, and I hope you love it. If you don't, well, that's okay too. It'd be boring if we all like the same stuff, wouldn't it? But as I've learned, life is too short for bad food and being boring. The only being boring that anyone should put up with is the Pet Shop Boys song. So I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you for spending, if you've watched all of it, thank you for spending 62 minutes listening to me monologue about Metallica's Death Magnetic. If you've skipped through it, you haven't missed much. If you were only watching the ending, that's probably the best bit anyway. It's got the explosions in. So thank you, and take care of yourselves. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you all soon. And as the Ramones had it, adios amigos. I'm out of here. Bye.